Hello, 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 and welcome. Welcome, my friends, to me, mom, and dad. I hope you guys are enjoying your summer. It is summertime at the moment, and it is hot, 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 hot. And I'll be sharing some summer recipes with you guys. So stay tuned. Because it's summer, I'm going to share our famous baby back ribs and ice cream pie. Okay, so stay tuned, my friends. This podcast, me, mom, and dad. I am Tia. My mom is Gloria, and my dad is Harold. This podcast started out. We're celebrating. This is our 20th episode podcast, and we're celebrating 1 year. And I'm so thankful and grateful. We enjoy doing the podcast. This podcast started out with us sharing my information. My dad has been diagnosed with Parkinson's for about 5 years now, and we are sharing our message of how one can live a positive, a fruitful life with Parkinson's. And that is what we're sharing, the great information that we have learned, what works for my dad and what does not work for my dad. And that's how this podcast started, with us sharing with to the Parkinson's community. And then the podcast started and ended up with us sharing wonderful recipes, because we are cooks in my family. My mom is the first great cook in our family, and my brother and my sister, we love cooking, so we ended up sharing recipes on each episode. And then the podcast turned out to be positive messages of never giving up and hanging in there through whatever you face in life. It is summer again, and so my mom, dad, and I took a trip up north. We're in the south here, and we took a trip up north, the three of us. And at first, years ago, I as a daughter, uh, didn't really want to take a trip with my dad and the Parkinsons, because fatigue is not a friend of Parkinson's. And traveling, as you well know, my friends, can really be a great. It can bring fatigue on one flying on the airplane, but we've learned how to travel with my dad and my mom. They're both in their 80s, and we've learned how to take a straight flight. It costs a little more, but with my dad, we take a straight flight to up north, and we had a wonderful time. My family is still up north. We had a wonderful time in the Philadelphia area. We had a lot of cheesesteaks and hoagies, and we had a wonderful time. Uh, with my dad, sharing with the Parkinson's community. We take a lot of multiple vitamin chewies for my dad, and B12s, and um, that takes on the fatigue, gets rid of the fatigue for my dad. And we had a great time. We hope you guys are having a wonderful summer. We flew up there, and then we flew home, and we're glad to be home. It's hot, 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 really hot, like 100 and some degrees. And that is what I will share with the Parkinson's community. Is we got back from our trip, and a couple weeks after our trip, my dad was dehydrated. And most days, my dad, he walks great. We give him his Parkinson's medication, and he does really well. Every 4 or 5 hours, he has to take the cortidopa levodopa, is what the name is of the medication Parkinson's patients take. We call it the yellow pill. And every 4 or 5 hours, he will take that pill. And dehydration is not a fan. The the yellow pill does not like dehydration, and my dad got dehydrated, and that causes the yellow pill to just not work at all. Also, my friends in the Parkinson's community, um, as I said, most days my dad can walk like a champ if he takes the medication every 4 or 5 hours. But we noticed he was having more and more tremors this particular week, and it was awful. He couldn't walk, and he was falling. I called the neurologist, and the nurse said he might have a urinary infection. My dad's 85 years old, and she said that's what happens with the Parkinson's um, patients. If they have an infection, the medication does not work. And we went and checked, and that's what it was. He had an infection. They gave him some antibiotics. So that is something I'm sharing with you guys. If you notice the medication not working and lots of tremors, then you might want to check dehydration out, and infection. Urinary infection is what my dad had. Make sure none of that's going on. The antibiotics got rid of it, and he also drinks lots of cranberry juice now. But remember, I always remind my Parkinson's friends, you must make sure the cortidopa levodopa, the yellow pill, it must it must absorb on an empty stomach. So 2 hours before or after a meal. So at 6 o'clock in the morning, my dad will start his cortidopa levodopa on an empty stomach. 6 a.m. We pop it in his mouth, and we wait 2 hours on an empty stomach. So he'll eat breakfast about 8 or 8:30. He'll have food in his stomach at 8 or 8:30, and we wait 2 hours for him to have his other yellow pill. We wait 2 hours when he has that second yellow pill. So try to, that's the key for us that we've learned with Parkinson's is please let the yellow pill absorb. It can really work wonderful if we do that. Okay, my friends? And also, family and friends being around all the time keeps joy on my dad's face. If one is not careful, depression can set in with Parkinson's disease, and to counter that is lots of joy. Honestly, I apologize. Hold on. I apologize. That's what happens in showbiz. The show goes on for that phone ringing. I thought I turned the ringer off. But back to, we made a commitment as a family that my brother, my sister, and my nephews, who are the grandkids of my parents, and they come visit us lots. And we made a commitment to do that, to keep my dad's spirits up, and it works. Keep joy, 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 and laughter. And you met in past and previous episodes. You met my brother has been on this podcast, my uncle, and my nephews. And one of my nephews on this podcast, all I can do is try to bring out my recording device when family come, and I try to capture when they're in the mood to share on these podcasts. And so I have my nephew, Miles. He is one of my mom and dad's, he thinks he's the favorite grandson. And so we'll just call him that right now. And I've captured him, and I'd like to share a little conversation of my mom and dad's grandson, Miles. And here he is. Here with Harold and Gloria's spoiled grandson. Say hi, Milesy.
Hi.
Here with his grandfather and his grandmother. How is it here visiting your papa?
It was good.
Is he walking like a champ?
Yeah, he is, but he's still a Philly fan, so I don't know.
Oh my goodness. What are you not Phillies?
No,
I thought you was Philly.
Dirty Birds.
You dirty birds, even in baseball?
Yeah.
That is so rude. All right, we're glad you here. This is our favorite nephew. You guys met some of my nephews, so don't tell them that Milesy is our favorite. You glad to have your grandson Pop say something? How much you love your grandson?
I'm glad to have him, and I love him, and I hope he keeps on getting better.
What you guys say, Gloria Thompson?
I'm about ready to keep him here and not let him go back.
Oh my goodness, that red velvet is red velvet cake she made going in my belly. She made him a red velvet cake that I'm gonna eat tonight.
No, you're not going to eat it because I don't eat it.
Say goodbye, Miles.
Goodbye.
So that's another part of the family that bring us joy, 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 joy. So I hope you guys do the same. Have family and friends all around. And that brings us to our recipes. Our recipes that bring us joy. We have family coming all the time, as I say. And we're always in the kitchen all through the year. This is summertime, 4th of July, and holidays coming up. And we're always in the kitchen shooting the breeze and one declaring that the other is the better cook. And that's how I started sharing these recipes. My brother will be coming this week. And he'll be bragging that his ribs are the best. They're pretty good. He's a great smoker. And so I'm going to share with you the baby back ribs since it's summertime. It's pretty simple, my friends. Go to your butcher. We go to a butcher around the corner like, we can go to the market, of course, but I like going to the butcher. He has the freshest meat, which makes it so tender. And we get a big rack of baby back ribs. Gloria Thompson, my mom, she loves baby backs. The regular ribs that this butcher has, they're so tender, they're almost like baby backs. We like those too. But my mom is a fan of baby backs, so that's what we do. So I like to get those ribs. I let them get room temperature. This is what I do. My brother does it different. You might do it different. I'm just sharing our recipe. But I always have to remember there are people that do not cook. My friends say, Tia, don't pretend we know what you're talking about. So I'm trying to go slow. When you get those ribs, you want to turn the meat side, the meaty part side down, and go in the back where all those bones are in the back of the rib. And we have to take off that like leathery membrane looking thing. So you have to get a towel and like a dry cloth towel, and take a knife and kind of lift up that leathery membrane. And when you can get a piece lifted up, take the towel. You use the towel because the membrane can be so slippery. You won't get all the membrane off. So you want to get a towel. Once you take a knife and lift up a little piece that you can take a grip with your towel, and with your towel, hold on to that piece of membrane that you've lifted up, and you can just pull all the way down to the end, pull off that membrane. Everybody pulls that membrane off. It makes your ribs nice and tender. So once you got that membrane on the back, turn those ribs back over, and I like to take a little bit of olive oil, and I rub olive oil all on the meat part of the ribs, and I turn it on the back again turn the ribs over and spread olive oil all around. I like to use kosher salt, and lot of kosher salt all over the ribs, back and front. A good amount of a lot of kosher salt, and pepper. That's all I use is pepper. A lot of people use other things, garlic salt, garlic powder. My brother does, but I just like kosher salt and pepper. And I let it sit for a bit, room temperature. And I get my charcoals. If you don't want to cook outside, you can cook these in the oven as well on but I'll just go slow. Getting my charcoals ready. I like charcoal if you like gas. But you just throw these ribs on the grill on I cook them slow for an hour or two on the slow side. I'll crank up a whole stack of charcoals on one side of the grill, and the other side of the grill I have less charcoal. So you want to put the ribs on the low, the less the part of the grill that's not as hot. The low part of the grill that's not as hot. And throw those ribs on there and just close that grill. Put the meat side down. You have that bone side where you took the membrane. Put a meat side down on the lowest heat. The lowest part of the grill that has the lowest heat. That's not as hot. And honey. And mixing that all up. I'll come back to the grill after an hour and a half. And I'll come closer to the highest heat part of the grill. And put those ribs closer to that. And when you go back to your ribs after an hour and a half, you'll see them nice and beautifully brown. Then I will take a brush and brush a layer of my barbecue sauce on the ribs, and I'll move them closer to the heat of the grill. And I let them cook for another 30 minutes or so with the barbecue sauce. Then I'll come back. So that's 2 hours they have cooked, the ribs, baby backs. Then I will maybe put another layer I'll take the ribs off because they will be falling off the bone after 2 hours on the low heat. I'll put another layer of barbecue sauce on the ribs, and I might put it on the highest part of the heat to get nice and caramelized. Not because the highest part is pretty hot. Maybe 5 minutes and let the fire hit that barbecue sauce. That's it. Take them off. You must let your ribs sit for a bit. Put some foil on it. Just sit. Don't pull them apart or cut them. All the juices come out if you do that. Let them sit for 5 minutes inside. Beautiful ribs. After you let them sit, they'll fall. You'll just be able to pull off the bone. Sometimes I'll go past 2 if I'm showing off 2 hours, but 2 hours for me is enough. Happy summer. So now ice cream pie. I get my favorite vanilla ice cream. We're in the South, so Bluebell is big here. So I might get Bluebell vanilla ice cream or Haagen-Dazs vanilla ice cream. And I get peanut butter cups. Let your ice cream sit out and temper. Let the ice cream get soft. Let it sit out while you're crushing up peanut butter chunks. Then you're gonna get some graham cracker. Get a pan, nice pie pan. I like to spray the pan. Get about 18 graham crackers. Crush them up in your processor with about 2 or 3 tablespoons of melted butter. Crush that all up. Put in your pie pan. I like to spray my pie pan. Press down your graham cracker crust. You can also buy the box of already crushed graham crackers. Press all that with your melted butter down in the pie pan. 350 oven. Turn your oven on 350. Let this pie crust of graham cracker pie crust cook for 10 or 15 minutes in the oven until brown. While it's cooking, your ice cream is nice and soft and soft. Not totally melted, but soft. I put my peanut butter cup chunks in the ice cream. You can use any kind of candy bar. Heath bar. I did peanut butter cup. And put all the peanut butter cups in your soft ice cream. When the crust has come out, let the crust cool for like 35 minutes or so. Then you can pour the soft ice cream on top of your graham cracker crust. Beautiful. Spread it all out, make it nice and pretty, and chop up some nuts, chop up pecans, chopped up peanuts, put on top of your ice cream. Put pie in the freezer. beautiful. When it comes out, let it freeze for a couple hours. You can drizzle some chocolate sauce, nice drizzly, beautiful design on top of your pie if you like, or get some caramel sauce drizzle on there. You're welcome. Happy summer. Remember Parkinson's community, but not just the Parkinson's community, the miracle of Parkinson's having a fruitful life with Parkinson's disease. Of course, I go back to letting the cortidopa levodopa, the yellow pill, let that medication absorb properly on an empty stomach, but also exercise, 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 exercise is the key, my friends, to Parkinson's. It they found that it is miracles, works miracles, exercise. My dad goes to the gym and he does the exercise bike is works miracles for the Parkinson's community. It does for my dad. It strengthens his body. Parkinson's can freeze the muscles in a Parkinson's patient, and exercise fights all of that. Exercise is the key, and it is for all of us. Exercise. My mom and I try to keep up with him, with my dad, and he does some of the machines. I also use the exercise band with his legs and his arms. It is the key to having a fruitful life. Yeah, everything's not perfect every day for us. There are days he might have a tremor, but for the most part, my friends will see us out and they'll say, man, if you hadn't told me, he's just walking around like a champ. And we're very thankful that we've learned all these things about Parkinson's. And I like to share those things with you. And joy, 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 joy with family all around and friends. And keeping our spirits up. And we hope you enjoy our podcast. Again, this is our 20th episode. And please subscribe to our podcast, then you'll know whenever I'm doing a new podcast. Please subscribe where you're listening to this podcast. Up the top, there's some icon looking things, the one that looks kind of like the Wi-Fi icon. I believe you click that to subscribe. Our motto is to always keep joy, 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 my friends, and keep your heads up with whatever you're going through. And that's the key. Don't ever be lonely, please. Keep your heads up with something going on. With friends all around. Come up with something to keep your heads up. And of course, keep the faith. My dad, Harold, is a retired minister, and he's taught my brother and sister and myself to always trust in God, no matter what mountain we are going through. And I hope you do the same. Please do the same. Exercise, exercise, exercise. I know I repeat it myself, but we've got to do it. I'm talking to myself too. I wish that I exercised as much as my dad does. Because he's like, can't you take me to the gym all the time? And he goes like, about 3 times a week. I don't do it as 3 times a week. I might ride my bike like twice a week. And also, I got my dad a exercise bike, stationary bike, for the garage. When days that we don't go to the gym, we have that exercise bike. I got it off of Amazon, and honestly, friends, it was $140 some dollars. It was a refurbished bike, and I was like, oh goodness, what's this going to be like? So it comes in the mail in this big box, this refurbished bike. And one of my nephews came over and put it all together. And he's like, Auntie, bad news, a part is missing. But they had the number. You call back and they said, what part is missing? And they sent you the part. He put it on, and it's a great exercise bike. I can't remember the name right off, but if anybody wants to know the name, just, send me a message. You can email me from where you're listening to. Just hit the email, and I'll get your email, and I can go look at the name of the bike. Please thanks for listening to our podcast. Please subscribe and support this podcast, me, mom, and dad. And happy summer. Fall is upon us, coming upon us. And keep the faith, my friends. And again, thanks for listening. Please enjoy the music.